city of Moulton, crime is at an all-time high, with murder, robbery, and corruption ruling the streets. With the public demanding results in an end to crime, a task force was created to combat these vile criminal elements as they continue to plague the city. The squad was responsible for capturing the city's most wanted criminals, and we always got our man. The public called us the Crime Busters. The squad was led by me, Lieutenant Jim Reed, though most people call me Noire Reed. And in this story of the Noire Files, we look at one of the Crime Busters' first cyber crimes. Well, if you can call it that. The subject of today's case is case file is a woman who is a master of the keyboard and has an unlimited access to everything in the city. The woman's name is Abby Bishop, but the cyber world calls her by her username Techno12. Abby's past was somewhat of a tragic case. Born to a prostitute mother, and for a while her father's real identity was unknown and remained a mystery. But trust me, we'll get to him later. Her mother then abandoned her at Moulton City's Lost Kids home. It should be known that the mother would later die of a heroin overdose, 2 weeks later after she was dropped there. During her time there, she was constantly bullied and ridiculed, constantly teased by the older kids and neglected by the staff. But then one day, she would suffer something very horrific and unforgiven by the owner.
But if you're not lucky, you die a little bit. Over and over. Until you realize it's too late.
She was raped. This event led her to be traumatized and lead her down a path to uncover all the dirty secrets in the city and expose all corruption, and would essentially get revenge on all cops who failed to get justice for her assault. You see, what happened was she reported the incident, but it was left uninvestigated. No wonder she turned out the way she did. This is one of the clear cases where the system fails to help the innocent. In Abby's later life, she would develop skills at technology and would be great with computers. Now, to how she got her nickname was because of a username. You see, Abby was a great online player. She would play video games like Fortnite and so on. Her preferred username was Techno12. As to where the origins of that name still remains a mystery. Even when we ask her, she prefers to keep it to herself, and I never press the issue. She would later drop out of school and began a sort of campaign to expose the corrupt officials within the city's government. She began with, at first, city councilmen, and then moved on to crooked cops. This resulted in many of these people mostly scandals that resulted in them either stepping down or even some arrests, but nothing really major. Eventually, one day, she would eventually go after the local mayor, Hazard Dewey. And trust me, from what our research we did on him when we got into this case, he definitely was one of the city's biggest scumbags. He had definitely done some deals with the board and other organized crime gangs. Now, because of Techno12 was pretty much investigating him, Mayor Dewey ended up getting his deputy mayor, Ziva Todds. Now, Ziva Todds and I, well, we had a bit of a history. We were college students together, and she does a lot of charity work for the city and has definitely exposed a lot of corrupt judges and cops during her time. She's, well, really I'm getting off topic here. Well, But yeah, I think you get the idea. There's some history. Anyway, we got a case, and I was eager to take it on just to get away from Malone, as the incident he caused in our last case. We started by, well, tracking down her last known suspected location. And we managed to track down through the courtesy of Brett, as he happens to be quite great at computer games and all that. And we managed to track down to an old abandoned video arcade place. Of course, for a person obsessed with video games, that sounds like a perfect place to go. So me, Brett, Billy, Axel, and Leroy all got in our squad car and went to check out. When we went there, we found Techno12 there, along with a group of gangsters, who weren't associated with any of the known organized crime gangs. There was When they spotted us, they started shooting, and we fired back. When the shootout was over, we called over Duck, our corner, to come and do his classic coroner scene. Techno12 managed to get away though. And during our investigation of the hideout, we found a secret room where a man was tortured and presumably killed. And that man happened to be a local security guard for City Hall. We managed to add up everything. Our troubles. The gangsters that we shot were all in the employ of a newly gangster, but his name remained a mystery to us at the time. Of course, that person in question happened to be the Duke. It turns out that the Duke, who was now in town, was a new criminal player. Now again, we had never met him, and even by now we never knew him by name, only that there was a new player and he was pretty much almost an enigma. But he was making moves to take over the city's underworld. But that is a story for yet another case. Now, we managed to recover some data from a laptop found at the scene. Even though it was shot up, we did manage to find some things. We found out that turns out that Techno12 have been gathering data on old rape cases, such as the officers who investigated and the person who supposedly raped her. Along with the data on the deal, we managed to find out that she made a deal with this new, gangland player, in which to find her father and her alleged rapist, along with the officers who threw away the case, in exchange for intel on possible corrupt government officials, possibly to have them either bribed or blackmailed. And to our shock, her father turned out to be the mayor himself. Now, in order to save these three on her hit list, we rushed over to a local ball where all the city's elite were there. When we showed up, a gunfight, of course, managed to break out, as by the time we arrived, Techno12 and a group of gangsters were all there, clearly there to kill the mayor. When the gunfight was over, Abby was holding the mayor at gunpoint and explained that not only that the mayor was in fact her father, but he had been running an underground child pornography ring, and she was the victim of this said ring. Now, Brett began to talk her down, saying that he knows what it's like to have experienced a life-changing event. He told her about the story of how he lost his family, but we the crime busters managed to help him through the pain, and that we can do the same for her if she lets us. Brett was managing to get through to her, and began lowering the gun, and let go of the mayor. But the mayor quickly grabbed a gun on the nearby floor, and was going to fire back at her. Just as the mayor fired, Ziva managed to jump in the way and took the bullet for her, and we fired back at the mayor, only disarming him. Now, Abby and Brett ran over to Ziva along with me to quickly check up on her, and we quickly got her to hospital. Ziva managed to survive, and Abby surrendered and told us everything of what happened to her, and also revealed her employer's name, the Duke, which is how we managed to find out the name. However, he said he never met her. She never met him. But, it was a start nonetheless. Now, we managed to connect him to having a percentage in the pornography ring. Turns out that he was making some quick cash by helping out in this distribution ring, which is sickening, but that's gangland for you in this city. Abby's testimony helped us investigate it and take down the said ring, though the Duke managed to make his escape. It also should be noted that we managed to find Abby's rapist, who turned out to be a city councilman who ironically was protesting against children assault. Disgusting. Now, Ziva was sworn in as mayor when the new mayor was currently, indicted, and it was eventually sentenced to prison. He too would later die in prison while being, killed in the showers. Now, Ziva was the first of the city's sworn-in mayor to be female, and as a result, I knew times were changing. We also found out that the officer who threw away Abby's case was actually Elliot Malone, although we could not arrest him, as, he had friends in high places. However, he was put on probation. Everyone was affected by this case, except Malone. Everyone took pity on Abby, especially Dan, who throughout this case, working behind the scenes to help connect the dots, was growing sickening by Abby's, upbringing. And little did we know, this would lead him down his own path. Again, more on that in another case, and something I'm not interested in looking into. During the trial, Abby and Brett became very close, maybe might say too close. Now, Abby was originally sent to hard time prison in the women's division, but the mayor managed to pull some strings to give her not only a pardon, but is now part of the crime busters as now a cyber hacker. Don't worry, she'll behave like a good little girl, especially since I paired her up with Brett a lot, and in many ways I've become both her legal guardian, just as I've become to Brett. After all, this girl really needs a home, and she has skills that will hopefully not make her a valuable asset to this team, but will hopefully improve and help this city. As honestly, we need to show people that people who come from these backgrounds, who come from these very traumatic pasts, don't need to use that to define them as criminals. They should use that to define them as heroes. She already had that little bit in her, and I'm hoping that me leading her on a more righteous path will help her even more. Now, if excuse me, I gotta get going. I have a dinner date with Ziva. Yeah, where after the case, she asked me out to dinner, and well, you can't turn the mayor down. But for now, another criminal is locked up, well, kind of, and another case solved. I, Noire Reed, call this case closed. Join us next time as we tackle another criminal in the Noire Files.